In this part, we're going to talk about different types of actually native file formats for Navisworks. In Navisworks software actually will have three main formats. Native file format, or we can call them main formats of Navisworks. That they are NWC, NWF, and NWD. NWC actually is a kind of format for cache of Navisworks, or we can call it Navisworks cache. That is a kind of really smart technology in Navisworks that it causes that for the plans or designings that you want to open at first, they will be turned to a cache or NWC that in the future they will be processed and opened really fast without it needs that again it passes the processing at first. So it is really effective for big projects, because sometimes opening a file with format of AutoCAD, MicroStation, Revit, or other softwares, yes, it takes a lot of time. But when you're turned to NWC, the speed of opening is really high. So if you have the format of NWC, so the software will open them really fast. But if you don't have them and you directly want to open, DWG, Revit, Rhino, SketchUp, or other files, at first they will be turned to NWC next to that file again, and again after that it will be opened. So in the next time when you want to open it, at first it checks your model that, for example, if it had any kind of changings or not. If it had some changings, it will just affect those changes, and again it will open that. And in fact, for every file you will need a kind of NWC format for them, like for example architectural model, structural model, mechanical model, infrastructural model, and other things. And every kind of models or every kind of files that you have separately, they will be turned to NWC that it is able to be opened in Navisworks. And also the size of these files are created based on the main file. For example, when for example a main file of Revit is 100 megabytes, when it is turned to, for example, Navisworks or NWC, it will be 50 megabytes, for example. And after that, when they are entered to Navisworks, they will be NWF. NWF is a kind of format that includes the information actually for Navisworks, and they are attached to NWC files. Yes, for example, in the NWF, you don't have any kind of models. You have information like models, timeline data, or for example, clash lines and such. These examples that directly they will be created inside Navisworks. They will be saved as this format. Generally the size of this format is really low, for example, about a couple of kilobytes or some megabytes. So NWF includes information of the Navisworks, and it doesn't include, for example, geometry. If the main file or native file is deleted, actually the time that you want to open NWF file, it will give you a kind of message in the name of resolve window. That in that window it will define that a file has got deleted and the path has got changed, and you have to just define the main path or correct path for it. And we will talk about it in future. And the time actually you want to, for example, enter NWC files into a kind of Navisworks, and you have NWF and you want to publish it for example, contractors or other people, that they can directly have access to those that data, for example. We can just export it as NWD. So NWC is cache format for software. NWF is for the main format for Navisworks, and it includes just information of the Navisworks without any kind of geometry and publish. But for NWD we have publishing. And the point in here, NWD file doesn't have any kind of relationship or link with the main or native files or formats. For example, if you have any kind of changing in the main file, you don't have any kind of changing in NWD unless you have a new publishing, for example, or exporting. So let's have a kind of checking. We told you that the first format is NWC. So in Revit, actually, I have created a kind of model like this. A kind of really simple model. It's just in this path, it has got saved. Yes, in the name of nav format. So let me just copy this path and let's go inside Navisworks. Let me just put them next to each other. In part of sheet browser, because I'm not gonna just close this part, I'm using sheet browser. Let's go on import sheet model and format. Let me just consider it on Revit from this part actually, and let's go to the path that we had saved this file before. So we don't have NWC format from it right now. So let me click on this file and let's click on open. So the software starts to open or add, for example, a Revit structure. We have a symbol here that is added into here. It means that if you click on this symbol, it starts to produce actually the format of NWC. That Navisworks software can actually open that file for us. So NWC has got created automatically here if I have double clicking on it. So NWC is being opened right now for us. So it's checking that, for example, we have changing any kind of, for example, on native file or not. So if it is open, it's like this. Let's go inside Revit. So, or for example, any other softwares, AutoCAD, every kind of other softwares that you can just use. So let's go into the plan door. Let's add some doors in here, for example, in these places, and also window. And let's add some windows, for example, in these parts. So let's select all windows. OKB is in 1 meter. Let me save it. Let's return to Navisworks in here. If I just go for refresh or F5, we will talk about them of course later. If I click on that, the software starts to actually check the RVD format if it's got any changing. For example, we'll just check it and it will update it. It's a kind of a cycling of working. It's really interesting and nice. So let's return to this to level on 5. So save. And let's go back to the Navis. You see here, the frames, because it's by detailable Revit, we have just entered it. Let's go back again here, refresh. And again, it will check it. Check the model. And the changings will be added to this and it will be reflected to the project. Navisworks, of course, Navisworks project. You see it was added. So how does it consider the settings? It considers them from the application menu, options, and file readers. The formats that are known for Revit, RVD or Revit in this part actually. If I actually, for example, consider, for example, convert element parameter on none and just and after that we'll click on OK. So you have to be careful that right now. You have to be careful that actually, in properties window, we have a lot of information. So I just inactivated the tick and I just refresh it. We'll wait that the processing is done. If you just click on this, the parameters have got deleted and the information of the model is not important here. So before importing, we have to do the settings, for example, in here, or for example, if for now I will just click on this wall and for example, and then I will convert part in here, save. If here actually I click on refresh, so right now the parameter window again will be returned into here, but the part is not considered in here. The part hasn't been affected in here. So let's return to this part again, and in this part, convert construction part should be activated. Of course, we'll talk about these options in the next season. So the season that is related to the importing the Revit file. So import and refresh, you see the wall will be turned to part. So in the native files that they are going to be turned to NWC files, actually the settings are in options. Yes. So as you can see, it is like this. It is like part or every layer has got important separately, but all of them are just one wall. So it's really perfect. So if inside Navisworks, actually, if you're using timeline, I did it. I just import some information, or for example, you for example, create some actually viewpoints here, or for example, if you click on anyone, again, you have just some other viewpoints here. For example, a review for each one. Actually, you will draw a red line. I will just consider it like this. Select. So here it will be added, or for example, let's have a kind of measurement, and it will be converted to actually markup that is added in here, and this is like this. So and every kind of information that is added inside Navisworks, and you save them or save it, and it will be NW. From here, save as, it is NWF, this part. Right now I'm able to actually bring it to this folder and name it, for example, nav_format. By NWF it is created. Let's save it. So here, this format was created for me right now. At the next times, if for example I'm going to, for example, open a new file, everything that is opened, they are closed. I will go on open, I will click on it. So this file actually, let me just set it on NWF. I will click on NWF, and it will just actually open all of the formats of the NWC plus the information that we added it into them. All of them will be opened, and it will know them for us. So, or open them for us. All of the information is saved here. Yes, you see, again, new. If because of every reason I just change the names of these files in here, let me close it. Just the end of the file of Revit in here, let me just create a new folder, and then this file, and this file will be dragged into this folder, and just we have NWF in here. So if I open it right now, we will see a kind of window in the name of Resolve, and it tells us that I cannot find the native file in here. It's not existing in here. Maybe it's got deleted. I don't know. Perhaps the path has got changed. Maybe you can ignore it. So without considering that file, it will be open. If it is one file, nothing will be shown to you. And if you have a couple of NWCs, maybe just one or two of them, it has happened to them, and maybe those ones that are known, they will be opened, and vice versa. You can just browse it. You will go inside the new folder, OK and OK. So it will be started from the new folder. So it is NWF. Right now, actually, if I'm going to, for example, send this file or open this file for another person, contractor, every person that can move inside the project, that maybe all of the data that has been added to this file, they can have access to that, but it doesn't have any kind of linking to the previous files. Or for example, if I have just changed anything, they cannot have access to them. We can have NWD format. I mean, file, application menu, publish, or for example, the part of output. Yes, NWD, publish. You see, it will be selected, and we can just click on OK. We'll talk about this window in future, of course. Let's click on OK. So NWD. So we'll go inside it. Let's assign a name like Federation Model as an example. Save it. So this file actually will be sent to the contractor or any person that is needed to check it. So if I go to the sheet browser, I will open this file from here right now. NWD. This file actually doesn't have a kind of link or relationship with the models. I mean, if you just click on refresh, it doesn't have any kind of effect on that. But in the previous formats, refresh will check the model if it has got any changing, so it will affect them on it. For example, in the Revit file in here, open file RVT. So from this part, actually, the second level, actually, just let me create a kind of roof. 100 millimeters overhang, for example, finish, and save. So if right now I'm in the main file, I'm in NWF or NWC, and we click on refresh, the model will be updated. but actually in NWD, actually nothing will happen. Yes. So if you're going to actually send a new model, we have to just again go to output publish, and we click on it. NWD should be produced in here. Yes. So this is the comprehension of the formats that are existing in Navisworks. NWC is a kind of collocation of the cache files. NWF is information of Navisworks, and NWD is collection of all of the elements that they could be linked, and they couldn't be linked or associated with the native files. They are just for publishing and just presenting to the contractors or those people that they have to review the last changings on files.